And then there wasn't a blanket demonization on him as opposed to individuals who are coming from the urban area. Like,
Right.
you're coming from that environment, you are automatically assumed to be a criminal. And so the psychology behind, you know, whether you are a criminal or not isn't even, you know, tapped into. We're humans first, and then how do you extract that humaneness out of these individuals? Because actually what actually happens is we begin to act out of what someone says that we are. You think that I'm criminal, then I'll act criminally. But we don't have leaders or, you know, mentors, if you will. Our mentors are our peers who know no better than what we do. So we follow one another, and we do what children do. And so now you realize that someone committed a crime as a child, should they be, you know, given the rest of their natural life in prison just because they did something? They made a mistake as a child. Like,
everybody.
Scientifically, your brain, the part of your brain that deals with reason and logic, haven't even developed to your early 20s, you know. So, like, of course it's, you know, it's like a heinous crime, if you will, but like, is this the way that we do humans? Is this the way that we practice? You know, our justice system is kind of like what I kind of like deal with. Like, I mentored children or young men in prison throughout my incarcerated stay. And I was being mentored by individuals who were doing natural life. And the reality of it is, the longer you are in prison, the more reality begins to hit you. And so, I don't know, I just think that is very harsh for a child to receive, without question. I would take some of the individuals, some of the young individuals who are doing natural life and place them in the job, train them, and put them with these wraparound service before an individual who's doing 2-3 years. You know, we always talk about the non-violent offenders, but the violent offenders never get taken a look at, because like, they are the problem with our society, but it's much deeper than that. It's much deeper than that. I'm a product of that environment, you know, so.
Yeah, I think the onus in our system is that we focus on individual responsibility, but not take into account, like you said, they're still growing, developing emotionally, psychosocially, you know, cognitively. Like, frontal lobe's not even formed until your mid-20s, and that's what your higher order of reasoning comes from. Being able to delay gratification, control impulses, and, you know, understand long-term consequences. Adolescents tend to, you know, function off of the immediate. Their association with that is about what's going to happen in the immediate. If I don't want to be alienated by my friends and peers if I don't do this now. They're not necessarily thinking down the road this is going to have consequences that are going to affect maybe employment, maybe my family, how they look at me, and the stigma that is applied to them. Yes, that does start to have what we in criminological theory we call that's like the secondary deviance. Now they're labeled a delinquent, and friends aren't hanging out with them anymore. So now they're alienated from there because their parents they think they're troublemakers. Teachers see them as troublemakers. They start to anticipate labeling them as someone's going to disrupt class. I need to get them out of my class because they're going to keep us from focusing on the more promising students. And these things start to accumulate to the point where they do, you know, looking at themselves, say, maybe I am just a delinquent. Maybe I need to own this persona. Everyone else thinks so, and I'm going to be the, you know, the baddest person I can be, and that's where we're losing, you know, a chance for reconciliation, repairing harm, rebuilding relationships that might have been damaged, and largely it's because we focus on the individual too much with committing the crime and not looking and taking a bigger picture about, all right, this individual is coming from this environment where the majority of Sensing Project, I think, surveyed lifers. It might have been about half, a little over half of those that are currently incarcerated. And they found that overwhelming majority of them witness vicarious violence on a daily basis. About 80% already were, you know, victims of physical abuse to some extent. And it's even harsher in sexual abuse for the females that are involved. Witnessing enduring violence at home, in the home environment, the neighborhood environment, and stuff like that can have an effect on youth just as much. And they're the ones at risk. But now we aren't stepping back and seeing that. We're seeing the crime, seeing and automatically assuming that this is all about individual accountability and responsibility, and not seeing that they're still youth developing and need, you know, a chance. You know, they're so cordial, you know, to some extent.
And to your point, that it's a much broader issue. It's a societal issue. Like, we having a problem, you know, in particular areas, and as opposed to going in and figuring out how to, you know, fix this problem, we're just going to demonize it and then everybody stay away.
Right.
And so now
it's driven by fear.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we realize, at least in the Michigan youth, and I think it plays out nationally, certainly in Michigan, because we've had that zero tolerance law for so long, that over 90% of our youth who are serving life sentences were suspended or expelled from school at the time their crime was committed. And so you think about that, as a child you have two identities. One, you're a student, that's what you do as a kid, and you're part of a family. You're a son or a daughter. And so if you take away that student identity, and for some of them the family is a bit dysfunctional, and you say, well, what is my worth? I mean, you can imagine telling a child, you are not worthy enough to be a student, to be what you're supposed to be in school with all of your peers. You are just not worthy enough to do that. And so you're pushed out on the streets, and you're just sort of looking for a home. And, you know, some of the people talk about that the healthier kids actually are the ones that gravitate toward a gang, because you want community, you want family. You want connection. And so instead of saying, oh, they're gangbangers, no, those are the kids, you know, the ones that are isolating, that end up the Columbine kids. Those are the ones you might want to be a little more concerned, not the gang kids. They're like seeking community, family, relationship, security, bonding, loyalty, all of the things we teach them, but we've taken away the school, and in some circumstances the family, and so there's nowhere to get those really needy natural things. And so it always amazes me when, you know, they talk about the gang thing as being an extra negative, you know, and I understand where it goes, but the impetus to be part of it, I think, is not a negative impetus.
No,
it's huge, you know?
Because you're committed to something, you're committed to someone, someone is committed to you, and so you take on this, like, this code of honor, you know, it's like a badge of honor that you have with these individuals that you know are going to be integral to you. And so whatever they do, you begin to do, because, you know, these are the individuals that accept you, they accept your flaws, you know, unmistakably. And so no one try to, like, give that any kind of balance and any sense of purpose, you know. But they're just as human as you and I, you know, like, they need someone to feed them that thing that helped them to become better, you know. I remember the California school system, the term Ebonics was created for slang usage, and it was ebony and phonics. And so Ebonics became a thing that was demonized, because the school teacher who came up with this philosophy, what she was saying is that, like, we need to speak the language of the people in order to reach the people, in order to teach them the proper way in this society, in our society. And so everybody took that as a negative. And because they felt, people or society felt like they were going to be teaching people how to speak slang, as opposed to how to speak.
A starting place.
Right. And so what that actually did is it took on a negative connotation, and everything was, all this backwash from it was that we never did create a space where we can reach individuals that come from out of the environment that actually speak this language. So we took our hands off the pulse of the people, but at the same time, you look at some of our corporate, you know, entities, commercials are all utilizing what we now call Ebonics, you know. And so, you know, they're making billions and billions of dollars off of it. But they understand, you know, they know how to discern, to whereas a youth just don't know that. I mean, who's teaching that individual or these individuals how to discern? No one.